Rebecca, welcome to the Create Podcast. I am so excited to connect with you and to chat on the show. And it's been such a pleasure meeting you this year in person. Welcome.
Thank you. It was a great pleasure to meet you as well. So I'm excited to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited. For our listeners, I visited Michigan State where I got to meet Rebecca and Loren, who will also be on the podcast later on. But I'm really excited to chat with you, Rebecca, about your story. I had the pleasure of visiting your ceramic studio and your beautiful office, which was kind of like a magical garden escape oasis. But for our listeners, could you tell us a little bit about what you do and who you are?
Well, it depends on which part of me, right?
Whatever one you choose, pick one.
I am an artist, certainly an artist, a sculptor. My comfort zone is ceramic sculpture. But I love mixed media sculpture. And that is what I am first and foremost. And then I also am an educator. I'm a professor at Michigan State University and I teach ceramics classes, which I love. I get to work with graduate students and undergraduates, and it's an absolute joy. And then, the distinct pleasure and honor of bringing in artists from outside, such as yourself, to speak with the students has been great.
It's amazing. And I had such a wonderful time visiting. But you shared with me when I met you that you didn't get started with ceramics until a little bit later in life. Can you talk about your journey of how you discovered clay and what was that like for you? Did you always have an interest in it? I'm curious to hear your story.
No, I had no interest or knowledge of it at all. The only time, I mean, looking back, because hindsight is 2020, looking back, I did one ceramic thing in high school, a high school art class, which is the only art class I took until I was 36. I took one semester of art and he had us glaze those pre-made Christmas trees that you stuck lights in, which
It's amazing.
now I wish I still had it. But yeah, that's the only time I had dealt in ceramics. And when I was 36, I had just gotten a divorce, and on a whim, I thought, well, I'll just go back to school and maybe I'll go to teach K-12 art because I had been working at a parochial school teaching K through 8th grade art, my daughter's school at the time. And so I thought, well, I'll do that because I need some way to support my daughters. And so I signed up for a small community college here in Flint, Mott Community College, and the classes started the next week. That's how much it was a whim for me. And I took,
Jumping all right away,
yeah,
jumping all in.
pretty much. And I took, the first semester was the basics, drawing, all of the things that you would expect. And I was like, this is all right. Like it's all right. And the second semester I took a sculpture class and it was the first time I had ever done sculpture and I loved it. And I made this installation piece with these small air dry clay bee or birds. And the ceramic professor at the time, who I just loved, came in and saw it and he's like, "Why didn't you make this out of ceramics?" And I'm like, because I didn't know that's a thing, was my actual response to him. And so he's like, "It is, and take my ceramics class this summer." And that was it. From that point on, I took a ceramics class every single semester, well, for the rest of my education. And I was in love, most specifically sculpture. I can honestly say I love teaching wheel throwing. I hate sitting at a wheel. So
What is your favorite type of clay or like projects to work on? What kind of sculptures do you enjoy the most?
always abstract. The more imperfect, the better for me. I prefer making sculptures that are set up to break in the
Mm,
making.
what do you mean by that?
So I put really heavy bits on top of little spindly legs. And if you know anything about clay, it doesn't like that.
It sounds very unstable.
It's intended to be unstable, and then there's a 50% chance it's going to break in the kiln when it's firing. And so there's this really beautiful moment, though, that's when art gets to imitate life. You can do everything with your best intentions. You can try your best to follow all the rules and do all the right things, quote unquote, whatever that is. And life still sometimes breaks you. It's sometimes, you know, your life gets upended and there's not much you can do about it. It just is. And so for me, that's that really neat carryover of I open up the kiln and that one broke. A leg broke off and it fell over. All right. So now, how do I make what I intended to look one way still functional, but also make it more beautiful than it possibly could have been if it still had that leg? And so for me, that's my favorite way of working is with this built-in fallibility that clay already kind of has. I mean, if you work with clay at all, you know it does what it wants.
I'm not I'm not a big 3D person, but I would if I lived closer, I would so take a class from you or maybe even many classes because this sounds like, well, one, you're kind of pushing the boundaries of the universe with your process, which I love. But I love that beautiful metaphor. You're right. Sometimes we do everything right and it just lifes and how we respond to it is what matters. And I love this empowering aspect where you get to switch gears or approach it in a different way and still make do with it. When did you always approach clay this way, or was this a process that kind of came to you after maybe an experience that you had with it?
That's a funny question. That's really brilliant. I had never thought about it, but the minute you asked the question, I knew when it was. I had made this I didn't used to work this way. Everything, I kept it very like it was safe and stable and 8,000 pounds. And I made this tree, and it was basically 3 that kind of moved and intertwined in between each other. And it represented me and my 2 daughters, and I had made it, I had fired it, I had glazed it, and I didn't like the glaze. And so I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna reglaze this." And I was working late one night, and I had just been diagnosed with vertigo, and so I wasn't used
Mm.
to it yet. I wasn't used to knowing when it was coming on. And I thought that this sculpture was like 5 foot tall. It was huge, and I thought it was falling, and really it was just my vertigo made the room do this, and so I grabbed it and put it upright, which threw it onto the ground
No.
and broke it into a million pieces, unsalvageable. And I just looked at it and I thought, "Well, there's that." And I put it all into a pile and I went home. And
Mm.
and I thought about it, I just left it kinda like that for a long time and thought, "Well, maybe I'll fix it, and maybe I'll do this, and maybe I'll do that." And the thought struck me, it's never going to be what it was. Like, it can't be what it was. And so I can either glue it all back together and pretend like it's the same, or I can just embrace it and say and that particular sculpture I ended up throwing in the dumpster, which was really, really freeing for me because what it did was it allowed me to go, it's I can do with this what I can't do with life. And then I can just think about it differently and I can embrace that just happens. So it was really that moment that started to shift things, and then my work got strange from there. It really morphed away from I'm making things I understand into I'm making things I understand with my heart.
Mm.
And that was a big
That's so
shift.
beautiful. That's so powerful. And I think so many times, especially as younger artists, we think I mean, even now, sometimes I'm like, I'm gonna go do this, and then what I make is literally nothing that I could even imagine. A
Yes.
lot of times it's weird or wonky, or even with the best intentions, it's just not what you imagine in your mind. But it's also that beautiful relationship with our art where we get to trust it too, and whatever it chooses to do sometimes is out of our control.
Yes.
As an educator, I'm sure that you deal with this, especially maybe with early year students. What would you like young artists or even emerging artists who maybe just found something that they enjoy creating to how would you approach creativity knowing what you know now about all the synchronicities and the accidents and
Yeah.
the mistakes that happen?
The advice that I always give, and it doesn't matter, where they are in their journey, is the most important thing is that it is true to your voice. You can follow all of the rules that the art world gives, you can follow all of the standards and all of that, but if it blends in with everybody else's stuff, it doesn't it's not you. There are things that what makes an art piece really fascinating, really wonderful is that you can see the artist in it. And so, honestly, even as an educator, I'm like, the rules are not that serious.
Yeah,
There
they're
are,
made up by some person.
yes, they are made up by people who decided it a long time ago because it was their style or their way of thinking. And that made them the best. But it doesn't mean it's correct. And so there are certainly hard and fast rules as far as like, yeah, you got to do this because you don't want your piece to blow up. Or, you you don't maybe want to hang an oil painting in somebody's house a day after you painted it. Like there are there are rules that you follow in that way, but aesthetically, like push it. Push the boundaries and materials push. That's one of the things that I love to do the most is to take a material and to push it to its breaking point so I understand how far I can bring it until it's unsolvable, until it has to go in the dumpster, and then step half a step back and play with it there.
I love that challenge. I'm trying to think of how that would work with oils, and I'm sure that I can come up with something. I really love that because that also kind of mirrors back to this whole idea of killing your darlings and,
Yep.
not being precious about it, but really playing with the material as well as allowing for those like little accidents and surprises and miracles to come through. So that's so amazing. Now, as an artist and educator, how do you make sure that you also show up for your practice? Because from what I gathered after meeting you, you're a very generous and giving person. And I'm sure that, you got to protect your own creative space as well so that you can pour from an overflowing cup, right? What does that look like for you? I'm sure, especially during the school year when you're so busy.
Honestly, that is still a project I'm working on. And I think a lot of it comes from learning to adjust how I think about myself and how I think about selfishness
Mm,
and how I think about what my role is. And so yes, I am generous. I'm generous with my time. I'm generous with my heart and my energies. And for a long time, up until recently, honestly, I was generous with everyone except for myself. And I gave myself the least of me. And the only thing I gave myself was the critical voice,
mm.
right? And so I have been learning over the course of this last year and more and more even closely this last 6 months, how to see myself almost as, okay, but what if I was my student? What would I say? Like, how would I react to me? How would I talk to myself about that work if I were one of my students? And so it has really shifted that. And I have also started to throw out those rules even more than I already did before. And I have changed it to say my lifestyle, my way of thinking and moving through the world means that instead of, okay, today is a studio day and I am going to just all day be in the studio. Instead, I get up in the morning and I have like this is my office and painting space, but through that door is my sculpture space and in the garage is my ceramic space. I'm an empty nester, so I have room.
Amazing.
And I'll go from room to room and I'll work on the stuff. And I'll work on it for a little bit and then I'll go and do something else and then I'll work on something else and I just keep dancing amongst all of them. It's kind of like starting 6 paintings all at once, right? And moving between them. It's the same idea, but it's little spurts. And then And then I can go and I can answer students' email. Okay. And then I go back in that room and I glue something together and I go, ah, that's good. That's good. I should go to the wood shop. It becomes much more fluid. It's art as life instead of art as job. And it
Mm,
and art being life makes it job, but it's in the right
mm,
order.
I love that.
Right, it was in the wrong order before it was art as job. I have to do this. I have to apply for exhibitions. I have to do all of these things. And what that did was it stole the joy. It stole the why I started doing art. And so once it flipped, then I'm like, okay, I'm making this work I'm really excited about. I'm sharing it on social media now because I'm excited about it. And I'm getting exhibitions with work I'm excited about. But it has to
I
start
love
with me.
mm. I love that so much. Thank you for sharing that. I'm so passionate about that, integrating art as a lifestyle rather than a to do, because there's no, I mean, if you look at artists throughout history, especially multidisciplinary ones, like how can you categorize like when they're working versus when they're generating ideas? And to your point, if we let it all be intertwined and connected, it becomes so much easier and not pressure, not like, oh, now I have to do admin. Like, no, you're excited about what you did. So, of course, that work deserves to be seen and supported by others.
Yep.
So, that's such a beautiful reframe. And especially for such immersive work that you do, it's not like you can really sit in one spot and,
No,
work on a tiny, tiny painting. It's very physical, it feels like, and you have to be strong and you have to really take care of yourself in all the ways. So that is so beautiful.
you do
I
it.
love
And I think as artists, one of the things that we don't consider enough is burnout and not the emotional kind, not the psychological kind, the physical kind.
yeah,
Like we're using our brains so much and that uses so much energy, but then we're also using our bodies. And I want to be able to do this until I'm old, old, old.
same. That's what the only goal, right? Is just to be able to keep doing the things that
Right.
we love. It's so important. And it's funny because when I went to art school, I definitely had the stereotype presented, the cigarettes, the skipping meals, lots of coffee.
Yes.
And, it's funny because I'm like, looking back, I'm like, how would anyone live past like 35 years old
No.
with that lifestyle?
Right? And we're almost sold that that's what a real artist looks like. Like, if you wanna make it as an artist, you're gonna just run yourself ragged and not have a nutrition app on your phone.
Like, eating 200 calories a week, mostly from coffee.
Right? I'm gonna smoke my calories away. Like, that's the only way to be an artist.
It's so true, but, I am seeing that even visiting the university, I am seeing that the younger generation seems to be a little bit more level-headed about it,
Yes.
and I was actually impressed. Many of them, for better or for worse, I do think that being online has its benefits, but they're very much and you were sharing this with me, they're analog, they love to make things with their hands, and I think that's a positive shift for society, and I hope that it continues in this trend. What are your thoughts on what you're seeing? Like, what are the values of the kids, the students that are coming through right now?
I love this generation. I adore this generation. They are fighters in a way that is really, really fascinating to watch. They like my generation was taught, you respect everybody who's older than you and you just do whatever you're told and keep your mouth shut. And my generation was not very good at that and now this generation is even worse. Like if you want their respect, you have to earn it. And it's not that they're just being dissenting. They're like, no, like we want to hold everyone to a higher standard. We want the world to be better than what we got. And so they want everybody to treat other people with kindness and respect, and this hierarchy thing is not just a given. And there's something really lovely about that. Like as a professor, like if you lean into that, if you embrace it, then you can get this really brilliant work out of them because then they're just opened up. Like, all right, cool. She respects us. We respect her. I can trust her. I can trust her now. So if she says, nah, 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 you can do this, You've got this. I believe in you. They believe in it as well. And they end up making this weird stuff, this amazing stuff that it's finished. And they're like, I didn't think I could do that. Like, I didn't know. Like, this is so cool. And they're proud of it. And I don't know, there's something very addictive to that circle, right? For me, that's very addictive. Like, I get excited and I'm constantly telling my students, I'm like, you've made me so mad because I wouldn't have thought of making that thing. And now I'm mad that I didn't think about making it.
I love that, and the work that I saw when I had the pleasure of jurying the senior show was so interesting and so impressive. Some of it was so intricate and elaborate and weird in the best way possible. So amazing, and I thank you for creating that sense of trust with them and respect because I think that's when all the great stuff comes out, when people aren't afraid of failure or of, being weird. So incredible. Thank you for doing this amazing work. Well, Rebecca, what do you have going on right now? What's coming up next for you? What are you working on?
I have a number of new things in the works right now. I'm at one of those shifts that we do as artists where we were doing one thing and then something happens and you spend a long time being quiet and then all of a sudden everything's different. And so, yeah, I have a whole series of mixed media sculptures that I'm working on. I have a collaborative project that I'm really excited about where I took my thesis work and they were large scale hanging pieces, mixed media pieces. And I have handed them out to 14 women artists and they are addressing them however they'd like. And it's photographers, it's poets, it's other sculptors, it's painters. And it's this idea of women, how women care for women. And so my thesis was about reclaiming what had been taken. So it was talking about abuse and things like that. And it was reclaiming myself, reclaiming all of that. And so then I took that idea of reclaiming yourself and handed it off to women and said, okay, so when you're helping your friends who have been through something really hard, how do you think about that? How do you physically do that? And so it's now the pieces, the whole group is called Carried Together. And so they have a year to alter these sculptures however they want, to do whatever they want with them. And then they're going to be in exhibitions that'll move them around. But it's a project that I wanted to do for probably 5 years. But I was too nervous to do it because, that whole self-talk thing, and I thought, "Nobody's gonna wanna do this." I'm just gonna get a bunch of rejections, and I got none. It started with 7 women that I'm very close to and I respect as women, and then they recommended a woman to be other so it's about also that sharing of how women create community by sharing women with women.
That's amazing.
And so,
That's powerful.
yeah, that's a project I'm very, very excited about. And they haven't shared what they've done so far, so I'm fascinated. It's a secret to me as well at this point.
You'll have to share it with me when it's ready so we can share it with our audience. I'm sure they're gonna be wondering, "Oh, how did this turn out?"
Yeah, I I
To see it.
I think it's gonna be amazing.
Amazing. Oh my gosh, Rebecca. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm sure we'll chat with you again. I feel like there's a lot more to uncover from your wisdom and your beautiful work. Where can our listeners find you? How can they connect with you and see your art?
I'm on Instagram predominantly. I think it's also posted on TikTok and Facebook, but me myself, I usually communicate through Instagram. So,
Perfect. I'll make sure to link your account with our listeners.
and I have a
Thank
website.
you.
Sorry.
Yes, and that too.
Yeah.
Good. I'm so, so grateful for you, and I'm so excited to see your new projects unveiled and looking forward to touching base with you again soon. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.